maybe we could start by going around the game of squares here, and just a little bit about who you are and how you fit into your system would be fabulous. Jennifer, you want to start?
Sure. My name is Jennifer Pardee, and I work for Snohomish County Fire District 7. I primarily focus on data. And with that, I also get to partner with several other fire districts in Snohomish County, and we have a countywide data team. And we also partner with dispatch in order to all collectively be working together in, analyzing our data and really building it to be, a data warehouse.
And so, how did you land in this gig when you were in elementary school? Did you think I always want to be a full-on data geek, or how'd this happen? What was your path to getting here?
That's the interesting question. I definitely was the kid who was more interested in working than doing other recreational activities growing up. So I literally started working at the city of Monroe as a student worker when I was 14.
Wow.
And so I just have dived into the public sector and worked for the public sector since then. And it's just morphed over the years. And you start learning different facets of the organization. And ultimately, I think I've just been in a place where leadership saw different qualities, and my career naturally moved in this direction.
Sounds great. Yeah. Thank you. Eric, how about you?
So I'm Eric Cooper, the Snohomish County EMS Medical Program Director. I've been here as a medical director, I think about 7 years now.
And how did you find your way into the practice of medicine?
Well, I think from a young age I wanted to be a physician, and after high school went to college and realized you had to get good grades to go to medical school, so I worked on that, and then took the next step and the big plunge.
That's great.
Never necessarily saw myself here in the sense that finding data is so important. If you'd have known me in high school, that would not have been what you thought I'd be doing now.
So I have to ask, if I would have known you in high school, which I think would have been really fun, what would I have thought you would have been doing now?
I don't know. Well, I'm still playing in the band.
Perfect. That sounds good. Scott, how about you?
I'm Scott Dorsey. I work here at District 7, and Jennifer is a part of my team, so we're data geeks together, and she was joking about the office because now we're office mates, and so she's working from home, but I'm now the transient office partner of hers, and so all this data stuff is generated together here, and we do a lot of fun projects together.
And so you came up in the organization through the ranks. Tell us just a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are.
Yep. So I started actually here back in 1990 as a volunteer, and got hired here, and then worked my way up, as you say, through the ranks. Went to paramedic school, became a lieutenant, wound up becoming a captain, then into the chief's ranks. Oversaw EMS for about 10 years, and now I'm in this world of sort of overseeing data.
That sounds great. And Kurt?
My name's Kurt Mills. I'm the director for Snohomish County 911. Part of my job is to try to meet the needs, the data needs, and other needs of around 45 different agencies. Wow. And so it's a bit of a challenge, but we've made huge strides in our county over the last 10 years with technology, and it's great. I think we're at a spot now where we're really starting to hit our stride in terms of how we consume and make decisions and come together collectively in our understanding of what the data means and how to use it.
And so similarly, tell us a little bit about how you landed in the data world. I know you had a run through First Pass or First Watch as part of your journey, but was this what you wanted to do when you were in junior high school?
No. Actually, I followed my brother out of high school into the Coast Guard, and after getting out of the Coast Guard, started working for the fire department in the Phoenix area as a dispatcher, and worked my way up there. Got my EMT, got my firefighter, worked on my degree, became a supervisor, and then from there ran a EMS communication center in Orlando, Florida. Then up here in Mount Lake Terrace, did the same thing, and then did my brief stint with First Watch when First Watch was in its early stages, and right after it, or actually right when I joined, it was still a Microsoft Access software application that resided on a computer locally. And it was after 9/11 and the anthrax attacks that that Todd was asked to build that solution to help look for anomalies in data. And so I thought that was just a great experience. From there, moved back up to the Puget Sound, landed a job as the operations manager for what was at the time Snowpack. And no sooner did I start that job that the director said that he's retiring. And so I threw my hat in the ring, and the rest, they say, is history.
Wow. And so I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different organizations and communities over the years, and I got to tell you, it's pretty unusual to find a collection of senior leaders in a system and an organization who are data oriented and data focused. That just doesn't seem to happen very often. So tell me a little bit about how you think about the role of leadership and the role of data in that process for how you all run your system.
I'll jump in and kick it off. I think for me, data really started playing a role when we switched to an electronic health record, and all of a sudden things jumped off of paper and became more accessible, and all of a sudden things started coming to life in a way that I'd never seen it before, and it became real interesting to me, and it almost became addicting, almost like a video game. You start asking questions and getting answers you never knew you had before, and you had them right at your fingertips, and the more you dug, the more you learned, and you just kept getting deeper and deeper, and so it just grew for me in that aspect, and it just kind of has never stopped from there. The learning continued, and so does the curiosity, and it's just a great adventure.
Sounds good. How about for some of the rest of you?
I think for me, so as far as data is concerned in the world of fire and EMS, that was kind of new to me in the year of 2016. And so being thrust into that and understanding and learning the operations of that side of the house, because I definitely came from the world of finance. And so that was my background, was in finance. And so coming out of finance and kind of moving over, I think it was seeing something new and getting to create, right? Because I feel like there are pieces that are in place that we have in Snohomish County, but it's having that vision to be able to take it to that next level. And I think for me, that's the thing that's super exciting. And what can we create? What can we build? And recognizing that it's not just for our agency, but it's on a regional level that will achieve achieve a great product that everybody can use. And then there's a form of consistency across the board with when we report data.
And so when you talk about a grand vision, is there anything more you want to say about what that vision looks like? I mean, what is it you're hoping to create?
Well, I don't want to scare anybody away. I think there's just a lot. I mean, we've got a dispatch center that's got all of our CAD data. Then, like Scott talked about, we've got ESO, which houses all of our EPCR data. And then we've got whatever, RMS system everybody's using, where we did go to a countywide one. I understand that not everybody in the county is utilizing it to its full potential for your infers data. But you've got these three major platforms that you can utilize as resources to build a global picture of what's going on around you. And I think over the last couple of years, we've already seen ourselves move in the direction of being able to compile this data and look at it in new ways. And then partner, for instance, with FirstWatch. We've been able to partner and produce some amazing dashboards. Even this last year, really partnering with FirstWatch to build out Power BI dashboards also, so that we're taking it to a very simplistic, user-friendly platform for the everyday user. And then granted, you still have the deep dive for the, data geeks like ourselves, where you're diving deeper. But, the people who do the work, being able to provide that data to them on a day-to-day basis, I think that's important. And then obviously our stakeholders in the community.
Well, that sounds great. I don't see other people being too scared by your comments, so I think you're in good shape. Eric, how about you?
Well, when I started, we were on paper, and the system was really managed almost by a complaint-driven, retrospective, reactionary process. You would get quality assurance complaints, you would look into them, you couldn't identify trends, you couldn't look at the system, you couldn't be proactive, and everything was kind of a more reactionary process. Now that we have a data system and a system to capture all the information, now we can be more prospective, define what our goals are, what we're looking for, establish what the trends are, establish some benchmarks for the organization, and be able to follow through on those and really become more proactive and less reactive, and anticipating needs.
That sounds great. And when I think about clinical medicine, it seems like we've really evolved to being much more informed by data about what kind of treatments make sense and what treatments don't. Any thoughts on kind of the relationship of data to the rest of medicine and how that's informing EMS at all?
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. We have to get that information about what is working, what doesn't work, where there's value, and trying to be an efficient organization, not just one that has good practice standards, but part of its efficiency too. And I think that's why you have to pull that information.
That's great. Kurt, how about you?
Well, I think the only thing I would add is our county has really evolved over the last several years, moving from legacy systems to a new platform. As Jennifer and the others mentioned, we have ESO and we have ProQA and we have records and we have all these different data sources, and there's a hunger for information, but the ability to interpret and consume it isn't it takes a special kind of person.
Right.
And so I feel like over these last few years, it's really been accelerating to the point now where we're really we're identifying what we can do, and when we share it with the users, they're like they're getting it, and they're getting on board as well. It's really been it's been opening or eye opening, and when Dr. Cooper was talking, I was thinking back to these early days where we were doing those paper QA runs and we had no data, and I knew what was available from my experience at FirstWatch, and hoping to get us to that point where we had things like ProQA and we could help make better decisions for not just EMS delivery, but for all of public safety service delivery. So it's been a journey, and I think we're in a really good spot. And we've had people like Jennifer and Scott and Dr. Cooper and Eastman, and I mean, there's been a lot of people that have really stepped up and to a degree, they're the visionaries and setting a path for our county.
Yeah, just a few years ago, right, when we were all on paper, there were these silos of a system that were out there functioning. And now we can follow individual determining codes from dispatch through pre-hospital care and get outcome associated data and really figure out how to properly manage the patient and navigate them through that system and try and figure out what our best practices and most efficient practices are. And we've never had the ability to do that before. So there's a real opportunity here.
That's huge. That's huge. Any other thoughts jumping out from anybody else before I? So from the perspective of First Watch, what are the things that you see that First Watch brings to the table, including specific products if you want, but that these data sources that you've already got kind of standing by themselves, it'd be hard to do. What is it that First Watch offers that you wouldn't have otherwise?
I think, as Jennifer mentioned, it brings together all these disparate data sets into one place. And that is one of our goals between Jennifer and I, is to bring all of those things together into one place where then we can access them and then ask questions and build triggers and, display the data in a way that is meaningful to our agency. And that's hard to do when you have multiple different systems, and we as an agency have to try to build reports and do that all manually internally. That's very time consuming and hard. And if we can have all of that housed in one place, have a conversation with you and tell you what we want it to look like, you build it, then it's near real time. It's something that's easily accessible to our people. And it doesn't take a lot of maintenance on our part to do. And it's just a huge benefit for us and for our people. So we really enjoy that aspect of it. Immediately preceding this meeting, I came from a meeting at DEM where we're working on our COVID monitoring. And that's another area where it's been a huge benefit to us, is to look at, how we build triggers in a county-wide perspective, to look at our whole COVID response and then inform the county itself in terms of, are we stable, are we unstable, what is changing, who needs to know about it. So we're building alerts to alert people all across the county about what's happening with our COVID response. And, we wouldn't have had that without First Watch. So it's a huge benefit to that aspect of our response and maintaining the situational awareness moving forward.
It's like having extra sets of eyes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I would piggyback on that. Scott said it well, is linking all those data sources together is huge. The other thing that First Watch brings to the table is the community of other providers. I remember when we first launched EIDS, after we had our first case in the county, and Sylvia, your guys' medical director, was already defining criteria, and so it wasn't just up to us to come and say this is what we want, because sometimes you don't know what you want.
Right.
And when somebody can go, well, that's great, but have you thought about this? Or they're doing this in Las Vegas, or they're doing this in New Orleans, or that community of brains that can come together. There's nothing like that I'm aware of on the planet for EMS, for public safety.
I would agree. I think that the ability to collaborate and take things that much further to the next level, to be able to say, okay, I have this idea. What could we do with this? What about this? What about that? That First Watch, the team that you guys have, you are so responsive, and your customer service and the ability to serve us as the customer is exceptional. And I would have to say just the dynamic that I've had of being able to call, being able to build the triggers, being able to work on these different things, that the partnership's amazing, and we're able to get things up and running right away, especially like Kurt was saying with COVID-19, how fast we were able to get our hands on our data because we have the partnership with First Watch is incredible. I don't know if that's something you see with most, actually, I do know. You don't see that with most software companies and people who provide, that software to you. You could wait a long time for it, where First Watch is the opposite. They're the ones reaching out to you.
That's wonderful. I couldn't have asked for a better commercial, I don't think, than that series of testimonials. That's wonderful. What when you think about kind of what we're doing now and what you'd like to see us evolve to next or in the future, are there things on your wish list that pop to your mind?
For me, I think it's just the ability to filter all of those data sources that we have through First Watch, being able to access them not only at the trigger level for us data nerds, but inside of there being able to build out a meaningful dashboard and then publish it to an HTML website, whether it be in an intranet, so it's only solely for our employees, or whether it's forward facing for the public. I think that's definitely something that I would like to see us work on. I think the trigger piece, every day there's something new that you want, right? Like you're bound to find something. So that's always evolving. However, I think now taking it and having the individuals do that build out to make that meaningful data that people are after and want, and they don't have to pick up the phone and call their data analyst or their person in their agency that can provide it. It's something where we can direct them to go to this location and it's readily available. And granted, that takes your team to vet the data and to ensure that the triggers are working the way that they're meant to work. But outside of that, I think that's my biggest wish list, just from the seat that I sit in.
Like that. Anything else show up for anybody else?
Well, I do. Here's what I would say is I really appreciate your evolution into Power BI and some of those other tools. I think that the world is really becoming data driven, and I think it's really important that you guys keep up with what's going on in the industry. I think that's super important. In the public safety world, there's a void in standards. When you look at the fire service and the NFPA, it's standards overload. It's crazy, and it bothers me in the sense that it doesn't give 911 the same credibility as police and fire. And I think that there's an opportunity there where I would love to see First Watch in your community build some standards and practices groups, just like EMS has, just like fire and everybody else has.
Makes sense. Anything in the clinical realm that you think, it would be really nice to be able to do this?
Rephrase that. Be more specific to what you're asking.
We're we've got the first pass system. We've got triggers available, and there's the ability to do some things with Academy Analytics that are clinically oriented. Is there any kind of data oriented clinical thing that it'd be like, boy, if we just had this, it would be really cool?
Well, I think when you talk about clinical stuff in big systems like the EMS system, you look for these patterns. So not only with emerging infectious diseases, catching early on that something is changing before you're able to have this kind of epiphany or aha moment that something bad just happened. I mean, what we're seeing with COVID and the pandemic was horrible. We had this opportunity where it really all came to light because of a cluster of cases in one facility. That really helped shift. But if that didn't happen, and we don't know what happened before that period, when things are slowly percolating through our community, if we had those eyes out there, those triggers that help cue us into those clinical events that were happening. So it's not even just for infectious disease and emerging pandemics. what impact does the result of the fire season and fires in Washington have on call volume for cardiac and respiratory issues? Like nobody's taking the time to see if there's a correlation in what's going on with our calls because of wildfires in the state.
Right.
There are other things that we could, have those eyes on, these triggers. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know until a trigger says, hey, did you notice that this was happening? That all of a sudden your call volume in this area has gone up, or to this location
Right.
something's changed, or whatever it is, before you say, oh, gee whiz, there is a problem, or there is something we should look into. So I think having those kind of established built-in triggers that these computer programs can kind of fester out and say, we're picking up some unusual activity in regards to this, and then giving it to us can really mean a lot. Because then we can talk about not only how do we respond to those issues, but then how do we proactively prepare for them in the future to minimize impacts on health.
That sounds great. That sounds great. If you were, and this will be my my last official question, if you were going to talk to people who are thinking about using First Watch, and you were going to talk about what you're able to do or what makes the difference, if you were going to be able to say just a couple of things to them, what would you say to help convince them that we're the right partner to work with?
Well, the quote from Donald Rumsfeld, you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot out there that we don't know. And to have a product that kind of fills that gap for you, and looks for these things and gives you information is just huge. Otherwise, you're kind of walking around blind and not knowing that you're blind.
Right.
I think one of the other huge factors that you guys have is, and Jennifer kind of mentioned it earlier, is the partnership you guys have with your customers. Is I don't know really of anyone else that you can just pick up the phone and chat with people, and it's never like you're putting anyone out or anything. It's almost like you made their day by making that phone call, and no ask is ever too big of an ask. It's like, yeah, we can do that, and you just feel like, wow, that was a great experience, and the ask is always something that you come through with, and it might take a tweak or two, but we get it done, and next thing you know, we're up and running, and we've achieved the goal. And it's never, yeah, we can't do that. That's just not going to happen. And it's always, yeah, let's see how we can make that happen. And that's a great atmosphere to work in.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I would throw out, you guys don't really fit the mold of a typical vendor where, hey, I want something. Well, step one is here, sign here. It's going to cost this much. And I would venture that, none of us have heard those words come out of your guys' mouth. It's more about, well, let's help you and figure the other stuff out later. And so I don't know how you define that other than really being customer centric and focused on doing the right thing. And the fact that you have industry people working there, you're not outside. Even our own CAD vendor, I think First Watch has more expertise of people from the industry who understand what we're going through and what we're trying to accomplish and the challenges that we experience in our worlds. That's immensely valuable.
Great. Thank you.
I would say that First Watch gives us the ability to layer all of our data from multiple data sources, and it's readily available at your fingertips. I think a lot of people struggle to even sometimes access their data. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's an amazing feature that you guys bring to the table. I think that First Watch then takes it beyond that just because of the great, like Scott and Kurt mentioned, the great relationship that is there. The build out is amazing. The sky's the limit on what we're able to do through collaboration with you guys.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Is there anything else I should have asked that I didn't ask? This has been a really rich and incredibly kind conversation with y'all. Anything else? I appreciate it. I miss hanging out with you live. I see all your faces and I think, we need to hang out in a suite in a hotel and have snacks and alcoholic beverages around.
Listen to some good music.
Yeah, exactly. We're overdue for that. Have you been? Are you going to do any Jamaica time during this, or you've been stuck working?
Right now, they're kind of on lockdown too.
Are they?
Yeah. So I don't know when I'll be able to get back. I left my steel drum there. So.
Oh no.
Maybe next year we can plan something.
All right. That sounds good. That sounds really good. Thank you all so much for taking the time to do this. With your generosity, I hope you all stay happy, healthy, and virus-free.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right, we'll see ya.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.
Bye.